Welcome to the final part of this review. The day of reckoning is upon us. Will this be the end of all life as we know it? Let's find out. So regarding our death, well, as these next few scenes show, including when Sai gets you back to LeBlanc by falsifying police reports to hide your body from the police, this was all planned out because Morgana never forgot Pancake Day, the day when Akechi heard him speak for the first time, and according to him earlier, he only recently got his powers. Thinking he might be up to something, we had Futaba make an app to bug Akechi's phone with so we can monitor his calls. Sure enough, he was conspiring to ambush you with the police force within the metaverse and then use the interrogation room to stage your suicide. Knowing this, Futaba and Makoto come up with the idea of using Sai's palace to their advantage. Since they know the police station is untouched in that world, as is the interrogation room, they figure they can use that to place cognitive versions of yourself, and presumably that one guard, in place of yourself for Akechi to kill. In part of this, they prepared a fake treasure for you to take, so that you could keep the palace for this plan. Then, using some programs to track GPS positions and activate apps, Futaba would initiate the Metaverse app from her end the minute your phone was in range of Akechi's. Hence the most dangerous part of the plan, where you needed to remain conscious enough to convince Sai about what you knew and get her to help you all out. It's all based on pre-established context, and it makes for a rather interesting plan. Even Sai and Sojiro, who at this point are accepting the idea of the metaverse and Morgana being able to talk to them, are amazed by the lengths that these teenagers are able to go to avoid death. The only thing that dampens the mood is the not-so-mysterious truth on the traitor. It was one of the first things the game established to set up the present-day stuff, that one of our friends was a traitor and we had to figure out who it was. But, and this is even by the game's own admission,
like he just realized Mona could talk, but we already saw him drop a mega hint about it way earlier.
They just didn't hide that fact very well. I mean, we knew that Akechi would be a party member based on cover art, his title screen appearance, and voice during the opening act. And because of that, seeing him react the way he did that day would suggest he knew more than he lets on. Of course, that wouldn't be definitive proof. For all we knew, he might have been a secret detective hero who was searching for the killer and only said those things about us because his view on justice prevented him from discerning our intentions to that of the killer. Except rather than the game have him be partially truthful about how long he really had his powers, but lie about his goals, they went with the more safe route of just lying about everything. Nothing about his lies were out of character when it can be assumed he never knew about Morgana until that point, but from our standpoint, it just makes him even more suspicious. The game even tried to steer us away from him with Makoto, who was acting odd a bit given her thoughts on her sister and wanting to protect her. If anything, she could have had some desire to save her in spite of Akechi's actions, and that it would lead to some kind of redemption arc later, but they didn't do enough to really make that stick, and even then, it'd be too late given the timing of Akechi's joining. And apart from maybe Haru and how she reacted to her father's death, none of our other friends showed any signs of betraying us. It was doomed from the start that the only one who would ever be marked as a traitor was Pancake Boy. However, that's not the most disappointing part of him. You'll see what I mean when we get to the next palace. Anyway, what matters is we're now considered dead, so the bad guys will be off our case for a while until we can figure out a way to stop the one responsible. And based on the other call we intercepted, we know now that Shido is the one we want. And after we find his treasure, we're going to announce to everyone that our leader wasn't dead, and that their precious prime minister-to-be was lying to everyone the whole time. Speaking of which, we learned quite a bit about him after figuring out who he actually is. Sojiro knew him from his time in the government as someone who claimed he'd be prime minister, but no one would believe him. Yet look where he is now. He also had to have something to do with Wakaba's death, and has avoided scandals for quite a long time. If we're to take him down, it has to be by the 18th, as that's when election day is. Oh, and if you want to hear about how big a scumbag he is, We get 2 scenes worth of him talking with Akechi and how they met, which is odd for them to delve into at this length.
Back then, you earned the media's attention as a young politician who could rise up against bureaucracy. Because of that, those who wanted to preemptively deal with problems tried to tie you up in scandal.
To think I would fall for the ruse schemed by those decrepit fools in power. I recall that's when you came to me. You promoted yourself saying you had special powers. If it wasn't for the research on cognition that I dabbled in, I would have thought you insane.
Well, regardless, you have to go into hiding, and over the next few days, you get texts from your confidants. And depending on whether or not you maxed out the relationship, the response is different to acknowledge what they know about you. Also, there's the matter of figuring out the last keyword to his palace, which we know is the diet building, but what does he see it as? We try figuring out what he's like, but a lot of the stuff on him just praises him without giving us any clues. All we keep hearing is how great Shido is, and that Akechi is a hero for bringing us to justice and whatnot. But luck comes our way when his campaign car comes to our neighborhood, and Ryuji once again acts like an idiot and runs up to the guy.
You don't want to know what happens when you cross me. It seems the customer base has changed since I was here last. Have they started a daycare? Damn brat! I'll sue!
No! I mean, I knew that from the beginning, but how did you at least forget what he looks like? And it's now that we tell our friends about this, so we have double the reason to beat him, since as of now, there's no evidence to clear you of your criminal record. We're talking about someone dangerous after all, so we have to keep trying on that last keyword. That's when you start to recall one of the words he said, steer, and you think of a ship. It works and it takes us over. So far, just the building is here, but when we look around...
The hell?
Oh, come on, I know some of you were looking out in the direction the edges were, but this line is pretty good.
Even though this country may sink, he alone will survive. That's what this cognition is about, huh?
So yeah, Shido views the entire country as a flooded world that he can only maintain by ship, and all that talk about helping future generations is nonsense. Why would Akechi help him again? Still, the fact that this palace encompasses the entire country is disturbing, so expect this to be bigger than anything we've tackled yet. Once we go inside, our costumes come on and we see the cognitive humans as normal looking, but they all wear masks. The game has established that a persona, or even a personality, takes the form of a mask we all wear to conceal our true selves. So in Shido's world, everyone here just hides who they are from both the public and himself. Not that he cares because of how he operates. The people aren't even bothered by the enemy shadows that roam, because they believe Shido is the one to save them all. It shows how twisted a lot of the rich elite are when they show no regard to anyone's safety but their own. We soon find the representatives chamber, where no one objects to the bills he puts out, and the treasure has to be there. We just need to find a way in. We ask around and we learn that in order to get in, we need letters of introduction from 5 of Shido's VIP guests, likely scattered around the large ship, so we decide to call it a day and make preparations before tackling such a large ship. Since you have time, I would suggest finishing any confidant links, get your SP items made and whatnot complete, so you have a better shot of finishing this place in one go instead of multiple trips. Granted, the Reaper gave me more than enough levels to where I can kill them with a single ambush. And I'm not kidding when I say this place is huge. Your first task is finding the politician, Oe, who is in the restaurant not far up from here. We need a boarding pass to get in, but luckily one of the guests lost theirs, and we just pick it up from one of the bartenders. Now it's just a matter of meeting the guy, but Makoto decides she and Ryuji will sit at a nearby table to gain some insight. Oe himself shows up, and through Makoto's dialogue, we learn that those close to Shido are able to order mental shutdowns, or even psychotic breakdowns, like with the one subway operator, all because the company was supporting Shido's opponents. Makoto says she can easily tell her sister this, forcing the guy to turn into a shadow? We beat him and get the letter, but it's strange how perfect the cognitions are to Shido, but they appear to have shadow traits. What kind of research has this guy been doing? Each time we take care of a VIP, we get a scene in the real world. The first two are with Shido, but then we get one with Akechi talking at his usual talk show place. Seems the public really wants us dead, but apparently in his mind, Akechi starts contemplating about how he wanted to feel like he was needed because of how wanted he felt. Guess they really want us to feel bad for him, but it's the lengths that he took to get here that are troublesome. Also, he starts to realize that he might have been messed with back when he tried killing you, which would answer why he felt strange back then. Otherwise, Shido calls him because he wants him to kill the VIP people that we gradually take down, because he's so damn suspicious of everyone that any doubt has to be removed. Where that leads to will come up after I discuss the palace itself. Outside of the main task at hand, a lot of the time is spent going through passenger hallways where these statues of Shido turn you into mice, because he sees you as nothing more but that. So you have to find these switches to shut them off, since you can't open doors or fight enemies like this. It's kinda neat, even if the amount of times you do it and how large the areas tend to be frustrating. I do at least appreciate the attempts at letting us scale the side of the ship to reach places, like it's a little more vertical than Okumura and Sai's palaces, but not quite enough. Hence why I just accepted that it wouldn't really go beyond just stealth and puzzles. The music here is at least good, loud and commanding, just like the ruler itself. If anything, the story-driven stuff here is the most interesting than the last two palaces, since we learn more about the sort of company Shido keeps, including one guy who thinks lineage is important above all else.
Did you make sure to put on sunscreen?
Ryuji, I need you!
Gonna knock you out!
Thank you! There's the TV station president who knew about Haru's father and how Shido wanted him gone for daring to leave his place on the ship, and also Madarame and Kaneshiro were giving Shido money. There's the IT president who was responsible for the fake Medjet attack that also led to the real Medjet's disbandment, and then the cleaner we keep running into, who does exactly as his name entails. We all fight them, of course, but it's nice that each of your human friends try speaking with them to work out on getting a letter peacefully. Even Yusuke, who comes up with his own interpretation of a phoenix that the cleaner could have as a tattoo. Even if Yusuke ends up declining because of his own interests as an artist. By the way, when you get to the part where you need to go through the engine room, you should save at the safe room nearby since there are some fights you can't save in between. For after the cleaner, as you go back through the engine room, who should show up but Akechi?
You truly are interesting. Quiet, yet possessing the courage and determination to take action. Under different circumstances, we could have been great rivals. Or perhaps even friends. How wonderful. You don't allow yourself to be enslaved by such things as human relations or past selves. And so your heart is always free. The exact opposite of mine. To be honest, I'm envious.
Okay, the thing I really want to discuss is coming up, but you can already tell where this is going. While he seems to regret his actions, causing a rank up with him, you try telling him how evil Shido is, but he doesn't care for any of that because he is trying to get revenge on Shido by having him acknowledge him before killing him. Yes, Shido was his father, the one who abandoned him and his mother, and that led to him believing he was a cursed child. But then...
That's when I learned about the cognitive world. Someone, be it God or demon, gave me a chance. I couldn't contain my laughter. You son of a... Who cares? My targets were all doing the same damn thing in this eat-or-be-eaten world. All I did was remove their evil from society. How is that any different from the Phantom Thieves?
Nope, not yet. Just a little bit more. So he's gonna fight us to continue his plan on killing Shido. Thus we have to fight a couple shadows he summons. He reveals that he has the power to make them go psychotic, thanks to an unknown persona. Then we fight him directly, and he goes back to using Robin Hood. Once that fight ends, we try convincing him he shouldn't be fighting us, but help us instead, since we all hate Shido and need to stop him. But Akechi is relentless, and complains some more about how we're apparently more special than him. And just listen.
I was extremely particular about my life, my grades, my public image, so someone would want me around. I am an ace detective, a celebrity. You're just some criminal trash living in an attic. So how? How does someone like you have things I don't? How can such a worthless piece of trash be more special than me?
Alright, it's time. Now, given what we know of Akechi, the spiteful kid who only ever wanted to be loved and acknowledged but got twisted and became a psychotic killer instead, the way it's handled is nowhere near as good as with Adachi. Like, with Adachi, we were friends just because he occasionally gave us insight on police matters given his ties with Dojima. He was a screw-up who constantly made mistakes, but nothing about him really stuck out or made us think that he could be responsible for the murders and kidnappings. Even at the point that Naruto uses as a reason to doubt him, you, the player, wouldn't doubt him because at that point, you saw someone related to the first murder kidnap a small child and enter the other world. At that point, you can only think of him as the killer and not Adachi. But then, when you learn the truth about why this guy did what he did and where he got the idea from, of course you would start thinking of Adachi because he's the only other member of the police you know by name. And then, as you confront him over it, his true nature showed. He was a sadistic psychopath who enjoyed manipulating people for his own amusement, even coming off as like an incel given his reasons for killing the first two victims. All because he obtained some divine power and thought he could do whatever he wanted. He was the kind of person you were meant to hate upon learning this, and the shock that he was lying to you the whole time was greatly enhanced by the game being mystery-based. I honestly think that the way they handled Adachi was one of the better times the writing was really good and effective, and without needing to sympathize or redeem him. Akechi, on the other hand, might have followed a similar pattern as Adachi, where he was hiding his true self from us, but not only were they not hiding it well, but the explanation for him being a killer just makes no sense. Like, okay, you hate Shido for leaving you, but you were able to make great strides toward improving your life. You had to have received love and admiration from people around you. Are you saying you never had friends who would stick by you like we would have? And also, if you truly cared for justice and wanted Shido to pay, why the hell would you decide to use your new power to become a killer? Why not thwart every attempt Shido made to improve his well-being? By helping him, you only make him stronger. You never needed to involve innocent people. You never needed to manipulate them. You never showed real remorse for the things you've done, so why should I care for this whiny brat who wishes he were as loved as you?
Come, Loki!
Again, it's that persona.
What's going on?
Don't make him justice. Righteous. Keep that shit to yourselves. You and your teammates piss me off.
And I like a good psychotic villain as much as the next person, and Robbie Damon does a really good psychotic person here, but it just doesn't feel worth it. I hate that I have to fight someone who is pissed off for the wrong reasons, especially when he had a choice to do good with what he had. Instead, he abused it to get where he is. And that's sad. Anyway, yeah, he can use multiple personas. Kinda like you, but outside of Robin Hood, there's Loki. Now he's even more dangerous with how he has a special attack boost that can't be negated, a variety of physical attacks, a heavy almighty attack, and so on. Even at my level, he was still a threat. I had to be thankful for Ryuji and his charge plus God's hand combo. At any rate, he's defeated, and now he's starting to see that maybe he shouldn't have been a killer. If only he had stuck with them, then he wouldn't be subjected with the thought of losing his fame and glory that he himself made with his own crimes.
Dude, you're more than special.
It pains me to admit, but your wit and strength far exceeds ours. We only defeated you by teaming up.
If you have the ability to use multiple personas, you probably have the same talents as Joker. But because you went through life alone, the power you awakened was fueled by lies and hate.
You excelled at everything over us. Yet that was the one thing you lacked.
Well, time to leave and send the calling card, but we're not done. Now a cognitive version of Akechi shows up, ready to kill the real Akechi because he lost. Also, based on this Akechi's speech, it seems Shido already planned to kill him anyway because someone with that kind of knowledge of this world shouldn't be allowed to live. Shido only saw him as a tool who would do anything he says, even die for him, making him a real puppet. He is given a chance to still kill you and delay the inevitable, but he instead shoots his cognitive self before shooting the panel to raise a wall. Yeah, we're really attempting to reform him, even if he didn't fully deserve it.
Change Shido's heart. In my stead. End his crimes. Please!
And like with your friends, he will now die for you!
His signal is gone. I'm only getting the weaklings.
I liked Waffles better anyway. With all the letters, we can enter the chamber and see where the treasure will materialize. As to how we'll send the calling card, well, Futaba has an idea, but first, what would happen if you were to not send the calling card before the deadline is up? What's the game over ending like this time?
What the heck?
It's him!
Akechi! You're alive!
We discovered that there was no corpse in the morgue. What a surprise. To think you'd pull the wool over my eyes.
But you saved us last time. Why would you do this? Yeah, this ending will play out even if you defeated Akechi. It isn't explained how or why this is happening, so it's probably an oversight on the developer's end. Anyhow, for the calling card, since we can't really deliver it to anyone, even the media, Futaba has an idea. She even shows us exactly what kind of calling card it will be. Through an animated cutscene, she hijacks the airwaves to deliver a message that the people have been lied to about what we've been doing, and that someone they know was really responsible. And then when the police try cutting off the video, Futaba just says, "F*** the police."
I win!
Minister of State for Special Missions, Messiah Shido.
Everything that guy says is a lie. And to prove that, look, as you can see, all of us are alive and kicking.
You're not gonna sit back and watch some crook wreck this country just because of his goddamn ego. Ain't that right, leader?
Hey, we can see his face!
Yes. Before that happens, we will take this country.
What I love is how they took the very same media that was used to manipulate the masses to begin with and flip it right back to benefit them. Now this gets people talking about how the man they loved was actually a criminal trying to take another group they once loved and frame them, while building up to the showdown of who is the true hero of society. Hashtag Phantom Hype!
Very well. I'll crush them beneath my heel.
So the police are pissed, Shido is pissed, his mysterious shadow self amps up security, They decide to take Cyan for questioning, and she knows how her previous director died, and now Sojiro is about to be taken in by Shido's men. As for Shido, he tries to reassure everyone that nothing is wrong, and now the public isn't sure what to believe anymore. As we prepare to go in, we start seeing reactions from all our confidants who eagerly await our next course of action. We're pumped as hell, so let's do this! We go into the chamber and confront Shadow Shido, who reveals that he indeed wanted to kill Akechi and might have figured he was related to him. Akechi might have been a jerk, but even he didn't deserve the sort of crappy father he was. Shadow Shido believes what he's doing is right, and that the ignorant masses should listen to him.
That is the social reform that only I, as the one chosen by God, can enact.
I can't believe you look down on everyone else so harshly.
I'd never accept a leader who makes a teenager murder people. You say it's for the country, but I bet it's all for yourself. Nobody would wish for something like that.
Nobody? Then why was I chosen? Why are they surrendering the seat of Prime Minister to me? Everyone denies the value of hard work these days. Instead, they seek to effortlessly gain wealth. That is why I must re-establish this mighty country. One that does not waver. One that others bow to.
Oh, just say make Japan great again. I know you want to, even if this game's development predates that a bit. Now he starts getting ready to fight us, as he opens the roof up for us to get up to. And we see his true form is that of Admiral Char from Mobile Suit Gundam.
Die! Without further delay!
Our leader's gone through shit because of you. It's on!
So this fight is pretty tough. He starts out with some beast that's made from the ignorant masses that deflects physical attacks and hits like a truck. After some health is lost, he takes flight with it and is resistant to all normal magic instead. Then he forms a tomb that isn't resistant to anything, but is strong, so you need to finish him off before anything bad happens. That's just phase 1 of this long fight, technically anyway, as now he'll get out, blame the masses for failing him, and proving that he's only in it for himself. But hey, now you reveal yourself as the kid who stood up to him over a year ago. Not that he cares about the people he's ruined, and then takes off his clothes to show his bulging muscles? This form isn't too bad. He can hit hard unless you dodge well. It's when he decides to turn into the Red Hulk that he starts getting extremely dangerous. He has multi-hit moves, can attack twice a turn and later 3. He just has a crap ton of moves that I was fortunate to not see all of, so you need to be prepared. All the while, Rivers in the Desert is playing, and starting with phase 2, you get the cool lyric version.
It's now or it's never, and I've got to make my decision. This time it could be my moment. Is this a mirage or a chance to fulfill my mission? A river in a dry land, the left is in a lost land, a heartbeat for a demon, a oasis in a strange land.
After a long fight, we finally take him down. As expected, he is going to confess to all his crimes and wrongdoings. As for the treasure, it's the golden steering wheel that was floating in the sky this whole time. Only it shrinks so we can carry it. But now, the palace starts falling apart despite us not even touching it yet. That's because in the real world, Shido started feeling his heart changing and demands this doctor to let him use this drug that will temporarily kill him to destroy his palace for a bit and prevent us from escaping in time. It's not looking good as the ship is sinking fast and the nearest lifeboat is too far off. Guess it's up to Ryuji to go beyond plus ultra and show us why he was the former track star.
Ryuji!
Sweet! There you go, Ryuji. You finally got to do something awesome. Oh crap, did he just die? I mean, everyone else got away, but he didn't. Was this really worth the legislator's pin we got? Was it really worth all of this? Oh wait, he's alive. Guess the explosion knocked him away to safety, but man, does he not have any regard for our feelings.
Hold on, okay? Come on, I almost kind of died. You guys are joking, right?
Well, at least we got the treasure. Time to go eat! Sure enough, real Shido starts sobbing like a baby, meaning he had a change of heart, but now his supporters are gonna try hiding him until after the election to try and save face. As for Soljiro, they let him go after everything that happened. All that's left to do is wait for the deadline to finish. Outside of some other things, the last free day you have will be on the 22nd, but get as much done up until the 18th before the next story event takes place. Play video games, train, read books, finish up Confidants, fish, make the Reaper cry some more, defeat the penis monster, and yes, I beat it hard, since you need to go and do another level in Mementos anyway. Anything goes at this point. Once the deadline is up, Shido will announce to everyone that he did in fact do all these terrible things, and that will get the people to worry. Time to celebrate with a fancy meal from Soljiro. We got to avenge Wakaba and Okumura, but there's still the matter of prosecuting Shido, which side will do everything in our power to do. But there will be problems, for just as the GOP is with Trump, Shido's men are going to do everything they can to cover up what just happened. They're gonna keep doing what they've always done, but also try and say that Shido didn't have a change of heart, that it was just something else. They're using the people's trust in Shido, who we've kept hearing from them this whole time, how great he was and that he'll make Japan great again, to keep what they've been doing going. It's as if we didn't exist all of a sudden, which is extremely weird. After one last round of exams, we see that Sai is being told not to investigate Shido.
If I recall correctly, you still aren't married, are you? You'll be on leave for a long time. Why not look for a husband while you're at it?
What an asshole!
So regardless of what we did, we're still being branded as criminals, and the people don't even know the truth. The crimes within the metaverse might even increase as well, but what can be done about the general masses and their apparent ignorance? Morgana suggests Mementos. It is still a collective place for distortions and desires, so there has to be a treasure there as well. Take that, and we might be able to change the public's opinion on us. The problem is, if we do this, the metaverse will likely disappear, and this will truly be the end of our group. Still, it has to be done to reform society, and Sai wishes us luck. Now, on top of another dream sequence from before regarding Morgana, the night before Christmas Eve has him admitting to having enjoyed the time he's had with us, like this is his last day or something. This leads to him maxing out his confidant rank and giving us the one and only story-based transformation of his persona. This is an ultimate persona, something you might have seen in the earlier videos, which is like an awakened form of one's persona and a showing of their progression as a character. Well, at least with Persona 3 through 5. I don't know about the first 3 games given their requirements to get them. Here though, their affinity chart changes to make them nullify their natural element and learn one other skill that could be useful in countering their weakness. As to what everyone gets, they are as such. Ryuji, for learning to rely on others and support them back, earns Saiten Taisei as his persona. An, for learning to work toward her goals and help others with it, receives a kite as her persona. Yusuke, for learning that his art should be used to help others and not just himself, though he should still be paid for it, has Goemon digivolve into Kamu Susanu! Makoto, for learning how to see from other people's perspectives and be the support they need, receives Anat, who is a transformer and she no longer rides a motorcycle because of it. Futaba, for maturing enough to where she can reconnect with people again, receives Prometheus, but no Bob. Finally, Haru, for figuring out what to do with herself and for other people, receives Astarte for her persona. Truly, these are the signs of their growth.
He's repelled such an ordeal, and this guy's still not being rewarded for it? If gods really do exist, they're being too hard on him.
However, Igor appears to be acting strange as he believes that humanity has reached their limit and ruin is about to come? What? The next day, we plan to begin our descent into the deepest part of Mementos, as it has now shown up on the nav. Morgana seems more pumped than usual, which is concerning Haru a little bit, since he has been acting weird lately. Otherwise, moving past the last checkpoint, we arrive at one last station where the Shadow people have been riding to this whole time. We can go past this door, but it's a one-way deal. Inside, we find massive pulsating pipes leading downward. The people are attempting to enter through this one doorway, so we have to go around, but what exactly is going on here? Further up are holding cells for the people, and they all want us to come in with them?
This place is the best in the end. In the depths within is a system that grants desires.
A system that grants desires?
Oh no. So, this must be the will of the ignorant masses. They don't care to really do or think for themselves and would rather be led by someone that will give them what their heart desires. By following the type of system the ruler has placed, they can find happiness. Even the shadow bosses we fought before are here, except for Okumura, and it's starting to become apparent that the palace rulers were those who escaped this place and placed within their own palaces. By changing hearts, it sounded like all we did was send them back here, even if we saved people before. It's a rather ugly way of showing the type of desire people have, that they are a slave to the system and should just follow through with it just to maintain happiness. Like they truly don't care for the state of the world. It's going to end anyway, might as well be happy with what you got. No! That type of nihilism has no place here, and you all need to realize this. Also, Morgana's memories start to return, and he remembers that he was born here for some purpose. And it relates to this one quarantine cell that someone within created him from. The mystery deepens, and we need to get to the bottom of this. First things first, this palace is pretty straightforward, but the floor puzzles are pretty neat at least. Naturally, there are shadows we have to fight, and even a security level is in place. Even though the highest it'll go is 99%, you can't get kicked out, and I learned that it's the same when you send a calling card out. All that happens is increased shadow spawns. There is an unused game over ending where you're back at LeBlanc, and the police show up to say that you've been chosen by God and you'd become an inmate for your own protection. What does that even mean? Well, we find the bottom, and there's this massive object in the center, and even more people in cells. It's too large to carry, so we have to destroy it. While we attempt to, the people cry out for us to not destroy the Holy Grail. That was mentioned a few times before in this game, and the people seemingly heal it back up. Then the thing starts talking to us, and that's where things start getting real.
I am revered as the granter of dreams for all who behold me. A being most commonly known as the Holy Grail. The prison of regression is representative of the collective desires of humanity. They wish to be chained down, surrender their cognition, and neglect the world around them. The shared heart of the masses has fallen into an excess of indolence and transformed into a prison.
Wow, it really is a matter of the world is screwed, might as well do nothing but die happy. At least now the Grail will fight back while fighting it, but it'll just heal up after doing enough damage. It never ends, and soon it regains its luster. As long as people desire it, there's no way we can enact social reform. They've fallen into sloth and are afraid to change reality.
As long as humanity yearns for me, I shall never perish.
Is this really what everyone wants? Stop thinking and be guided by the Holy Grail?
The humans I look up to aren't like that. No matter how painful reality is, it's all over if you don't try to change how things are. I'm not the only one who believes that. Everyone here agrees. We don't want to turn back into the people we used to be. That's why we risked our lives coming here.
Well, regardless, the Holy Grail says it's time to merge this world with the real one, and after delivering a powerful attack, we end up being booted back to Shibuya. But now some weird things happen. First, it rains red. Then, through an animated cutscene, massive bones start rising out of the ground, for it turns out Mementos is starting to merge with the real world. Also, no one seems to notice except those who've known about us for a long time, including any confidants we maxed out on. It's just business as usual. They don't see the danger they're facing. After that, we start feeling like our strength is being drained, which leads to...
I don't feel so good. Ah! My hand!
This can't be real, right?
Indeed, this isn't my doing. You imbeciles are about to disappear from the people's cognition.
That damn voice!
Mementos and reality have become one. Thus those who have disappeared from cognition cannot exist anywhere.
So because more people don't believe in us than the amount of people who do, we're disappearing from everyone's cognitions. That's a pretty scary way to go either way, when even the public doesn't recognize you enough for your own existence.
Is this all my fault? Because I brought you all there? I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. The mission's a failure.
What a sad ending this is. Well, back to the Velvet Room with you. We failed rehabilitation, and we failed to prevent mankind's ruin. Thus, by Igor's word, we are to be executed, much to everyone else's shock. Whatever sort of experiment he's been doing has ended, and we failed to live up to his expectations. So the girls must carry out your death using the guillotines. However, you still haven't given up yet, and your rebellious spirit returns. This leads to a fight, but you can't fight back, nor can you die. The girls then realize that this was never something they were meant to do, as the voice we sometimes heard during the game starts to return and makes the girls learn who they really are. Now, they want us to fuse them together. So this is Lavenza, the true form of the twins who was split apart after some malevolent force came to try and enact his game onto the world. So what we're dealing with isn't the real Igor, but the Holy Grail himself.
No, it may be more accurate to say that I am a god who responds to desire and holds dominion over man.
Yeah, they say that, but they usually have to come from some sort of desire man has, as we'll soon see. But we were able to make it to him earlier, so he offers you the chance to return the world to the way it was before the merging. We'll even get our recognition back, but the people will still be chained to their desires. Choosing yes will give you a unique bad ending where the Phantom Thieves are seen as heroes again, but they're doing things the police couldn't do, even if it looks like you're the only one alive. And yeah, evil protagonist. It makes as much sense as the accomplice ending in Persona 4 Golden. Like, why would he do this when nothing indicated he would make the turn? So, no deal, Mr. Grail. You can screw off now. And we'll be taking back our favorite old man now, since I guess he's done with him. Sure enough, he gets his normal voice back. In the Japanese version, Igor would still use sound clips from when Izumu Tanonaka voiced him, while the English version has him as Kirk Thornton. Even though Dan Warren could have reprised him, I guess they weren't able to get him back. Either way, he doesn't get too many lines of dialogue, and they say it's because he hasn't regained all his power back. Still, the matter of the Holy Grail needs to be resolved, but we need our friends to do it. Luckily, they were saved and placed in the Velvet Room. We talk to each of them in order to rekindle their spirit and rejoin the battle. After that, they get acquainted with the people we would have known forever now, and learn Morgana is back too. Turns out, Igor created him using mankind's hope to serve as a guide to help you defeat the evil god, who intends to obtain his own eternal peace by filling the world with the desires of those who don't think for themselves. Also, the Holy Grail only became a god because people desired it, thus giving it power. And this game he devised was to have the trickster, Ren, go up against someone like Akechi in order to decide how the world would turn out. It was rigged either way, as you can see, but we can still change things if we really try. With that, we can get out using this one door, that as it turns out was the quarantine door. The temple that the Holy Grail was in is at the center of Shibuya, with a pathway leading up to it, and people are starting to recognize us again, thanks to Morgana's light that comes from being mankind's hope. This will have a ripple effect later, but for now, time to play Life Will Change Again!
It's not a game, I'm not a robot, and I'm challenging you. I'm not a phantom, I'm in your face and I'm here to see you through. Right before your eyes, what just multiply? Got the flame right, it's time.
Oh, and if you ever feel the need to heal, talk to Lavenza. You can also still use the Velvet Room for all your services and needs. But for now, as we go up, fighting shadows that resemble angels, the general public starts to realize, oh wait, this isn't normal at all! And panic. Many start disappearing, because those who are ignorant probably still don't think they exist. Once we beat the last guy, we will have reached the temple entrance and have one last chance to prep. Once you go in, you immediately head down and are greeted by the Holy Grail, with his ghostly Igor form. He blabs about how people don't need to put burdens on others and not think for themselves. We're not gonna let those thoughts control how we should be able to act, yada yada yada. Let's just fight. Right away, Futaba tells us you need to cut off his supply of health from the prisoners. So I just have Morgana do it as like a repeat of the Kamoshida fight. Once that happens, it's just a matter of depleting his health. But that was just the first phase. Now he undergoes a transformation. Well, never let it be said you weren't the most impressive looking final boss in a Persona game. So since he feels mankind is doomed, he thinks he has the right to control everyone. Even though he pretty much caused this whole situation to begin with, so it isn't completely their fault. As for us, this is the perfect target for us, since taking down a god would be the biggest accomplishment we'd have as thieves. So at first, it seems straightforward, like the earlier fight. But then he shows us what else he has by growing an arm that has a different weapon to represent the 7 deadly sins, and inflict unique ailments that aren't easily dispelled. You have to be careful when damaging them with multi-hit moves, since some can repel certain elements. They do recover after a bit, so it can be a long fight if you're not adequately prepared. Eventually, at low health, he'll begin charging a super move using all his arms, and you'll have to take down as many as you can before he lets off his super attack in 2 turns. Eventually, we drain his health, but he still has enough power to start pinning us down. He knows that he can only be a god of control because he only exists because of human desires. He continues to exert that mankind only exists to desire things, and it would only lead to ruin. But Morgana tells him off and says that no matter what, we'll keep fighting to the end. It's at this point the people who remain begin to see what we're doing. And Mishima does his one good act for the game by rallying everyone behind us. Even our other confidants get in on it, and soon their support reaches us. It gets so immense that our popularity reaches newfound heights. It's so immense that it's about to go beyond 100%!
No matter how many prayers of those foolish masses come together.
What the?
Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Ren gets his ultimate persona through story progression as well, though you don't get a fully functional version of it until you start New Game Plus. Satanel, as he's called, is like the demon that Morgana says punishes gods for being naughty. And indeed, after Yaldabaoth tries attacking us again to no avail, you get to deliver the final blow by shooting a bullet right in his face! And like that, he says his final words before becoming the treasure he always was. Morgana goes up to it and starts talking about how humans have the power to change, just that they forgot how for a while, and he's happy to help the humans he admires so much. Once taken, we end up back in the city, though it's still merged with the metaverse. It isn't before long, though, that the world corrects itself again. As that happens, what suspicion they had comes true, that Morgana will disappear with the metaverse. As he does, he says how our world is like the cognitive one, that is filled with infinite potential because of our power to change it to our heart's desires. It's truly a sad moment for our little furry friend, one of the greatest allies you could ask for, even if he doesn't let you go out at night.
Remember, there's no such thing as the real world. What each person sees and feels, those are what shape reality. This is what gives the world infinite potential. Even if you feel that only darkness lies ahead, as long as you hold hands together, see it through as one, the world will never end. The world exists within all of you.
Anyway, our actions seem to have done something, since people are doubting Shido now, so that should at least help Sai in prosecuting him. As we plan to have a celebration party on Christmas Day, Ren ends up meeting Sai. She says she'll have a case, but there's one problem. The metaverse stuff requires someone who knows about it to help testify, and it's sounding like you have to be the one to fill in. The problem is, because of your criminal record and what you've done as a Phantom Thief, you'll likely be put in juvie or worse, depending on the outcome of the upcoming trials. You will literally have to give up your own freedom, yet again, to save your friends from having to take this burden. You agree to this, but you are at least allowed a day with whatever romance options you have. You don't tell them anything, of course, just give them whatever comfort they need while shouldering the burden you've had this whole time. They soon learn the next day, though, that the savior of the world is still having to be arrested for things that aren't his fault. His friends, though upset, aren't going to let this stand. As Morgana would want them to, they need to work on saving him without the metaverse. Thus begins the one portion of the game I do like, regarding confidants and such. During January, your friends start working on finding people relating to Shido's earliest known incident on you to set up a case on clearing you of that one assault. Those who you maxed out on relationships with, not counting party members, will be talking with various associates in order to spread positive influence and get them to rally for you, and even protect you from any harm. This is the reward you get for helping as many people as possible, and in a way, shows that being kind to others is an essential part of society. It's just natural to show empathy, and while not the best example of it, it would be nice seeing this sort of action carried out regardless of who is presented as the main character. As for the Velvet Room, since the metaverse is gone, we are free from our rehabilitation and are rewarded with the World Arcana, symbolizing how we are no longer alone and we have the power to bring hope to everyone around us. Thus, Igor and Lavenza take their leave, and on February 13th, Sai comes in to tell us that Shido has been prosecuted, mostly on real-world problems, but thanks to the public's demands, he is at least facing time for what he did. That also means you are cleared of any wrongdoing and get to go home. Soldiero even picks you up, and it's reminiscent to when he first took you to school. Soon enough, though, you find your friends. Such is your fate, given everything that happened, though we're still short one person.
Huh? That was quick, boss.
Someone call for me?
Mona?
What are you doing here?
More importantly, how did you open the door by yourself? Yeah, Morgana was able to still exist in this reality because we kept him in our cognition enough that he can still be a cat. He can still talk too, so really, all we lost was the mascot form. He didn't show himself sooner because it didn't feel right, and wanted to wait until you came back. At least he's more tactful than Ryuji, and he even apologized. Still, everyone's happy and all is well. Okay, time to start wrapping up the story. Valentine's Day is tomorrow, so you can choose to go out with whatever partner you have, but if you got all the girlfriends and choose to hang out with Ryuji instead, you get the day after Valentine's, where all your girlfriends show up and find out you've been cheating on all of them. In Persona 4, you got to break everyone's hearts one at a time, but here, all that's being broken are bones. At least you get some pity chocolate from Soldiero. Now it's March 19th. The day before we have to go home. This is the day we get to walk all around Tokyo and say goodbye to our friends and confidants we've met during this adventure. Mostly out of closure to their arcs, but you do get items that let you access certain perks they have after linking up with them again in New Game Plus. Yes, even Sai gives you something, even if she has no real perks. Also, Lavenza is still around, despite what it looked like earlier. Once that's done, just head back to the cafe, say goodbye to Futaba, and then come morning, you give your last goodbye to Soldiero for being a truly great guardian. But wait, it seems our friends are going to drive us home. Even if we disbanded the Phantom Thieves, at least we still have each other.
Anyways, now that we gotcha, we ain't taking you straight home.
Hey, can I ask something? My friend's in trouble, and I'd like everyone's input.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
If this is any more work, count me out.
You know you want to, Inari.
I'm getting out.
Why'd you open the whoa?
Let me off.
Stop moving around. Come on.
That's dangerous.
Persona 5 is an interesting game to be sure. It definitely sets a new bar for what a Persona game can look, feel, and play like, and on a technical scale, it's definitely one of the best entries to date. If anything though, the weakest element would have to be the story itself. Again, it's supposed to be about kids who are treated like outcasts in a society that's run by corruption, and through their escapades, they set out for social reform. While that concept is great and all, it's still limited by the kind of characters we did get. For the most part, I do like them, and though I would never hate any of them, some push my patience a bit. Especially Ryuji. Also, if anything, outside of wanting better diversity in this group of outcasts than just being pretty and mildly privileged, they could have done better with getting late characters like Haru into the story without it feeling like they come in too late. The way the game is paced, it feels a bit shorter than Persona 4, and that's despite me playing this game for at least 70 hours. By that, I mean the amount of time spent doing the story, doing free time, and other things feel a bit off at times. Like this was meant to be a bit longer given the characters we have and the story being told. The main story could have easily gone into January like Persona 3 did if they wanted to. Maybe add another palace so everyone could be together before the heavier plot stuff kicked in. Regardless, it's not like I'd expect Atlas to really take heavy topics like social reform and progression that seriously without the usual anime-influenced writing we see in JRPGs. And while occasionally you can take a lot of what's shown, ultimately people expect them to really exceed what they've done before. And I'm inclined to agree that they didn't quite do that here. Yet, I still wouldn't even call this a bad game just because it couldn't do what indie developers have done and actually have progressive values that challenge the status quo. Even if the gameplay got repetitive after a while, and the impressive graphics and art direction don't always contribute to that and story, I was satisfied with them addressing the problems people face every day. We needed a reminder that we can change society through our own individual power and support from others. And it was fun seeing how they tied that into the supernatural aspect of the Persona or Shin Megami Tensei experience. If anything, the worst aspect I found about this game were how some villains were written, and of course, fricking Akechi. Otherwise, the cognitive world and how what we see shapes that side of reality is something else. I still prefer Persona 4 over this as far as a story goes, but for the most part I could still recommend this to newcomers. It is probably the most accessible game out of all of them, though if you want an Atlas experience that's more positive and covers its main themes in better fashion, I'd say play Tokyo Mirage Sessions first. Not only is it fun, but it handles the Japanese idol and acting business side of life in ways that I would never imagine. Otherwise, I am looking forward to see how The Royal fares once it's out over here, and I'm especially looking forward to Scramble once it comes out here as well, because like it or not, Persona 5 will be around for a while, and even if the first entry didn't wow everyone, they have themselves a base and we can hope they improve with time. Stealing hearts from Plenty is just the first step, but in time, they may indeed take the world. I'm the Media Hunter. Media is my prey, and reviewing them my way.
Pancakes! Pancakes!
No pancakes.
Pancakes!